Hi guys, welcome back to Let's Get Planted. Today is, I guess, repotting day. A lot of the plants that we had shown before, it's time to repot them. We'll show you how we know that it's time to repot them and the whole process of repotting them.
All right, so similar to our last video where we showed you the potting mix that we actually used was basically orchid bark, normal potting soil, and perlite. Let's get started. We're going to do equal parts. Today, while my wife is doing equal parts, what we're going to do is we'll show you what's going on with this guy. So as you can see, the roots are actually growing right through the bottom of the pot, and then the same thing for the Peru. There's a single root coming out. What I do want to do is we're going to go much larger. We're going to go much larger, only because I plan on doing a moss pole. So once, we'll transplant it right now and then we'll do a moss pole afterwards. We have a couple wood stakes that we had ordered online, and then we'll get the moss and we'll get that situated, and then we'll add it in afterwards.
Do we need more?
We need way more. We need way more. Yeah, once that's all nicely mixed, we'll add it into the bottom of our pot. Just place this over here. Scooping. Yeah, if you guys are interested in creating a moss pole, stay tuned for that. Just let us know in the comments, I guess. If you want us to show you how to do a DIY moss pole, we can definitely show you that. We do have it on order, so we could definitely review that with you guys if you guys are interested. I feel like we're gonna need to make a couple more tubs of this.
That's a deep pot.
Usually we don't go, too like, this is maybe a 4-inch. We try not to go too large at once, just because you're afraid that when you water it, the plant's not going to soak it up. It's going to stay at the bottom. Then you'll get root rot. You get a bunch of issues. So we'll make sure that we stay on top of our watering and we don't water too much. And that's why we're using a lot of airy soil mix. But yeah, usually with our other plants, we do waterings once every 2 to 3 weeks, depending on what area of the house it is. So this is directly south facing, exact south facing, and then that's west. And we get full-blown sun in the sunroom, and then in our kitchen as well. In the kitchen, it's actually a circular room, so it's east, south, and west. So we have a ton of plants in there as well. So it definitely have a great place for all of our plants. So yeah, these guys will go in the kitchen. And then we can do the Peru first, I guess. We'll try not to damage that root. Just squeezing the sides to loosen up the dirt. It's definitely in there. Oh, here we go. And we didn't damage the root. The root is still intact. I'm just gonna gently remove some of this top soil. In this case, there are actually multiple plants, which is great. I'm just going to gently remove this. So I just, here's one plant. And then this one, it's just one large plant. There is a node that I can remove, but I'm not going to. I'm going to keep this intact. And this one is getting fairly leggy. It seems to be reaching out the same as this. I'm going to air layer it. That'll be our next project. Once we get the moss pole done, we'll try to air layer it and see if we can get some root development, and then we could do some cuttings after that. So yeah, all I'm gonna do is make that little divot, place this guy in here, and just gently pressing it down so we remove any air pockets. Yep, and here's the first one, all done. We'll place this one right here. And then for this one, same deal. I mean, this one had much more root development than the other one, but this is, what was this? Monstera adansonii? Swiss cheese. That's, yep, exactly, Swiss cheese. This one has actually grown quite a few leaves, actually, since we've gotten it. Oh, wow. So I'm actually very surprised. I really didn't want to separate them, but they're just literally coming apart. Okay, so I see what they did. They basically took a node each and they just placed it all around, and yeah, it's growing. So there's 2, 3, 4, and 5 total plants that we have. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to place them all in pot, and we'll just basically put them all around the edge, and then we'll put a pole right in the center. Where the Peru, we actually placed it right in the center, only because we had the one and then a small one. For this guy, we'll actually place them all around. Since there's 4, I'm actually going to take just one of them and pot it separately. So then we can just have 4, 2 and 2. So we'll keep that aside, and then here, do you want to do these? Do you want to just plant all 4? Yep. Sure. You want to go a little bit further in, because so basically on this one it has roots growing off to the side, and then the actual stem is just over here. So in this case, we're just going to keep it like this. Instead of making it like this, we'll keep it upright, and we'll just try to go about like 4 inches down or 5 inches down, and a little bit further off like this. So we'll keep it this way. You want to make it a little bit deeper.
It's so airy.
It's just sliding right back in, right? Okay, go ahead. Now just lightly tap it down so it stays up. And then the next one, you're going to have to go real deep. No.
Oh, well.
Yeah. So you want to just do one.
Right here.
Yeah, sure. Just directly across it, and then we'll do just the 4 corners. Get the roots all the way in without breaking them. Okay, go ahead. I'm holding on to it, and then you can just press it in. This one, you might need to make it a little bit wider. There's a ton of roots on this one. Just trying to make sure. Okay, go ahead. Fill it in. Perfect. And I made sure that when we place them, where the vines are growing towards, they're all growing towards the center, because we're going to put a moss pole in the middle. So then, yeah, it'll be easier for us to attach. And then the same deal with this guy. We'll just place it on the opposite side. And the vine is growing towards the center. And then we have some silver pothos. Where do we get these? I have no idea. I'm not going to reuse this potting mix, even though, you know, there were no bugs or anything in them. I'm just not going to use it. What we can do is we can sterilize it. You could boil water, and you can pour boiling water through it and then just let it dry out for a couple days. Or you can do hydrogen peroxide, 1-to-1 ratio of hydrogen peroxide to water, and then you could just let it completely soak in, strain it out, let it dry out, and then you can reuse the potting mix. So that should sterilize the actual potting mix. Now for this planter, we actually just went on a little bit of a shopping spree for planters in anticipation of replanting all these plants that we got. What we're planning on doing with these guys is having all 3 of them potted up in this one, and then putting it on top of our cabinet on that side, only because we get south facing, like that gets blasted with a lot of sun. So we're definitely going to put it over there so it can trail down and block some of that sun from getting into the cabinet. And then on the other side, on the other cabinet that we have, that's where I can get a different form or a different variant of these guys. There we go. It's easier when it's dry. You're gonna have to make it much larger. There you go. Next up, I'll try to keep this one as intact as possible, so it'll be easier to pot up. See, now this soil is a little bit moist or wet compared to the first one. They were all watered at the same time, but it just depends on which side they were facing. So like they were in this tray, but that one was getting blasted by the sun. And also we have forced air heating, so the vent is very close to it. or where this was on the floor. So because of the vent, it actually dried out that one quite a bit, which isn't a big deal. I mean, they can handle a little bit of drying out. And most of my plants, we actually let them dry out, and almost to the point where the leaves are like almost drooping, and then we water it. We've noticed, I mean, we've had luck by just doing it that way. 3 pots done, and then there's some sphagnum moss that's been soaking in water. If you can wring out some of that sphagnum moss and put it in this cup here. So all we did was we soaked this in rainwater, the sphagnum moss, and I put Super Thrive in there. Just a normal mixture that comes on the bottle. So just follow the directions for that. Just soaked it in there for about a couple hours, wring it out. And then what we're going to do is basically we can do multiple things. We can plant these guys in there too, our cuttings, or basically our divisions. And in this case, what we're going to do is we have 2 bulbs that we got from our alocasia poly that we had transplanted last week. So these have been just sitting in moss. It was drying out a little bit, so we're actually going to put it in a cup and just lay it right on top, and hopefully we'll see some root growth. And we'll put this in the cabinet where it's, you know, higher humidity, so it shouldn't dry out as much. So yeah, we're just laying it right on top, and just I literally just put some sphagnum moss like right around it, so there's like contact basically. So hopefully we'll get some root growth on this guy. All right, so we got these all potted up. We'll water them really quickly. Again, it's just rainwater. Gonna just a little bit. Just water them all up. Sure that there are no roots that are exposed. All right, that looks good. These look good. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us while we repotted some of these plants, and we actually took some divisions from them as well. Good thing. I mean, I always want more, but yeah, it's good. Just in case, look, you never know. You know, knock on wood or something. You might get thrips or something like that. That's really bad. So just in case, if if your plant dies or something, you always have a secondary one. So always, I always try to have 1 or 2 extras just in case if the mother plant dies or something happens to it. So I always like to have extras. So I was very happy to find those. We also found 2 bulbs in our poly. And then these silver, I mean, these guys will just continue growing, and these are so easy to divide. I'm not too worried about them. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Stay tuned for our next video. What do we have planned?
I think we're still waiting on our plants that we had ordered. There should be in maybe 1 or 2 days or so.
I mean.
So we'll do an unboxing video, and then we'll see what else is in the forecast. So thanks for joining.
Thank you.
If you like today's video, please comment, please share, please subscribe, and we will see you next week. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.